There have been a ton of Switch 2 leaks lately, some that completely change the narrative when it comes to 4K gaming on the Switch. And I want to start off with the first leak, which is some new details in regards to the Switch 2's chip. For a long time now, the Switch 2 was rumored to come with Nvidia's upcoming T239 chip. The T239 is reported to be a more toned-down version of Nvidia's 234, a powerful chip with a surface area that's 23% larger than even that of the Xbox Series X, and one that is already used in robotics and the automotive industry today, according to Digital Foundry. The first reports of Nvidia's T239 chip came out back in 2021, when a reliable leaker shared not just an image of the T239's bigger brother, but also that the Switch 2 will potentially use the T239. This was later confirmed by a big Nvidia hack that showed us some more concrete info that the Tegra 239 did indeed exist and was actively being worked on. That leak gave us a ton of specifics on the T239, such as the fact that it would have an 8-core CPU configuration. But we still lacked specific details in terms of the clock speeds, GPU configuration, and the overall performance. Well, now Digital Foundry released a comprehensive report with every single detail that they managed to find about the Switch 2's potential chip, which I highly recommend you read. It is highly detailed, so I'm only going to give you the main points here. First, the CPU itself is set to feature ARM Cortex A78C cores. But okay, what does this actually mean? Well, I've done some digging and it seems like the A78C is a more powerful version of the A78, which was found in chips like the MediaTek Dimensity 1200, inside phones like the Xiaomi 11T. Now, the Xiaomi 11T was a low to mid-range phone, so its performance likely wasn't the best by any means, but the A78C, on the other hand, is a much more powerful version, which is targeted towards laptops and handhelds. I couldn't find any laptops or handhelds that use A78C cores, so it is looking quite likely that the Switch 2 might actually be the first here. Okay, so what about the GPU? Well, according to Digital Foundry's report, the GPU will be a custom version based on Nvidia's 30 series Ampere architecture. This is pretty much as I expected as well, which at first glance might imply that a Switch 2 won't have DLSS 3, as that only works on the RTX 40 series. However, Digital Foundry also states that a T239 does actually have a core component of DLSS 3's frame generation, which may or may not have a role to play. And leaker Nate the Hate reported that based on his sources, the Switch 2 would actually have DLSS 3.1. More specifically, it will indeed lack frame generation, which can seriously boost the frame rates by using AI to generate the in-between frames, but it will still have a number of other DLSS 3 components, including the image upscaler, potentially allowing for resolutions of 4K to be hit. This new GPU is also set to feature 1546 CUDA cores, that is 24% less than an RTX 2050. Why am I mentioning the RTX 2050 here? Well, that's because the specs of the T239, which also include a 102GB per second memory bandwidth, come in really close to the RTX 2050 in terms of the overall performance, according to Digital Foundry's findings. They even tested a few games on the RTX 2050, which, by the way, although it is a 20 series card, it is based on Nvidia's newer Ampere architecture, just like the 30 series. Long story short, when playing Death Stranding in 1080p resolution, the RTX 2050 was able to achieve an average of 35 frames per second. And even when dropping the resolution to 720p and then enabling DLSS, the 2050 was not able to push much more than 60. Now, what's important to mention here is that the RTX 2050 is also a mobile GPU, and not a desktop one, and that because of its limited 4GB of VRAM, it wasn't even able to run Matrix Awakens, which the Switch 2 was apparently able to run according to multiple sources. This implies that the Switch 2 will likely have more memory than the 4GB of the RTX 2050s. 8GB or even more is a possibility, which is what Digital Foundry believes as well. Overall, this is probably the best look at the type of performance that we could expect from the Switch 2. More specifically, current gen AAA titles might be able to run indeed, albeit at a 720p resolution on low to medium settings, and then upscaled using DLSS to more than likely a 1080p resolution. 4K might be doable using DLSS, but upscaling from a 720p image will likely result in a pretty soft output. But you know what's not 4K? Version 1.1 of wallpapers, our biggest update yet is now live. And with it, we're now giving you the ability to download the full resolution 8K version of our wallpapers that you can then send to your tablet, laptop, or even desktop. These look absolutely stunning on larger devices, and being in 8K means that you can enjoy them no matter what screen size and resolution you have. We also now have a beautiful new welcome screen before signing in, as well as a new menu button with options to subscribe directly from there and to become a creator as well. On top of this, we also have a ton of other visual changes and improvements. And to celebrate the launch of version 1.1, here are 10 6-month full access codes. Okay, back to the Switch's 2 resolution. I cannot say that I am not ever so slightly disappointed. I was hoping for Nintendo to be able to finally give us some sharp 4K visuals when docked and playing AAA titles, but that doesn't really seem to be the case here. I mean, sure, we could see some simpler titles like future versions of Mario or Zelda run at maybe a 1440p resolution and then upscale to 4K using DLSS 2, which might make them look okay on a 4K TV. In fact, Eurogamer reports that an enhanced version of Zelda Breath of the Wild was even shown at Gamescom to a select few developers, and this reportedly ran at a 4K resolution in 60 frames per second with almost no load times. What this tells us is that first-party Nintendo titles could potentially hit 4K resolutions at 60 frames per second, and using DLSS 3 might do the same for third-party titles, although, like I said, I do expect those to take a more visible clarity hit, as opposed to the first-party titles, since Nintendo's titles are not just simpler in terms of the graphics, but they're also much more optimized. What I would love to see Nintendo do here is give us a dock that has a dedicated GPU that then connects to the Switch via Thunderbolt or a proprietary connection, and then seriously boost its performance when docked. We've seen this before with Thunderbolt eGPU docks. We've made a few videos on those in the past, and some handhelds like the Asus ROG Ally do offer an external GPU that can seriously boost its performance when docked. In fact, with Asus's ROG XG Mobile eGPU, you can connect a mobile RTX 4090 to the ROG Ally. Of course, the main issue with this is the cost. Here in the UK, the XG Mobile eGPU costs around £2,200. That is more than triple the cost of the Ally itself. And knowing Nintendo and how they like to keep their prices as low as possible, there's no chance that Nintendo will offer such an option, let alone bundle one in the box. So in this case, AAA titles will likely see a visual hit when compared to the previous generation of 4K consoles, like the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X, even considering that the Switch 2 will have DLSS and the newer GPU and CPU architectures. In which case, should we not expect to see any big AAA titles at all, and instead see more first-party titles like we've seen on the Switch? Well, like I mentioned in our last video, Nintendo has been in talks with Activision Blizzard at the potential of bringing some of their titles to the next generation Switch. These titles also include Call of Duty. What is even more interesting is that Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick said that the Switch 2 is closer to the PS4 and Xbox One in terms of the overall performance. The PS4 and the Xbox One can of course play the latest Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. So the performance of the Switch 2 will definitely be enough to run the latest Call of Duty at least. However, I do believe that the Switch 2 will be more powerful than the PS4 and the Xbox One, given that it will have a much more modern architecture and also support features such as DLSS. As I mentioned earlier in the video, Matrix Awakens was actually able to run on the Switch 2, which, as we know, is a very demanding Unreal Engine 5 demo. Matrix Awakens does not run at all on the previous gen consoles. Therefore, this immediately tells us that the Switch 2 will likely be more powerful than the PS4 and the Xbox One. You see, I love my Switch. I love traveling with it, and I don't mind the weaker performance compared to my PS5. What I do mind though is that I just don't have that many options in terms of games on my Switch. I mean, sure, Nintendo does have a great selection of titles, but if I want to play Elden Ring, GTA 5, Red Dead Redemption 2, AC Valhalla, Modern Warfare 3, and I can go on, I just don't have that option on the Switch at all, not even the ability to stream them. And this is honestly what I hope we'll see from the Switch 2. More AAA titles. And honestly, I do think that we will, as we're not just getting way more performance with the Switch 2, but it seems like big publishers like Activision Blizzard are seriously considering bringing their titles to the Switch. And this is what I'm really looking forward to the most. Of course, there are way more leaks to talk about. There's a new patent on a potential new design, some updates on the display, backwards compatibility, and so much more, so do stay tuned for some upcoming videos covering those too. I'm Daniel, this has been Zone of Tech, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Zone of Tech, signing out. Cheers.